Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday morning. It is so good to see each and every one of you. It is so good to be here with you as we gather together to celebrate the magnificence and significance of God in, through, and as us. Let us begin, as we always do, with prayer. And so I invite you here and now to close your eyes and affirm with me, I am here now.
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 There is one mind, one power, one presence that is working in all, through all, and as all. There is one life, and that life is our life now. It is the life of Mother, Father, God, flowing in, through, and as us. I know that God, all of God, is right here, right now, because God neither comes nor goes. It is omnipresence, everywhere at all times and constantly encountered. I know that God is omnipotence. It is all the power there is to be, do, or have anything. I know that God is omniscience. It is the knowledge. It is the wisdom. It is the power that flows into, through, and as us as intelligence and as genius. And it is here now. As I know that all of God is here now, as I acknowledge that all of love is here now, as I acknowledge that all good is here now, I remember that we are a part of it. We are one with it and one of it. We are God's good idea. We are the wave and God is the ocean. And so now, as the wave, I speak this word in faith. I speak this word that today's weekend service, that today's gathering, that today's masterclass is fulfilling, that it is enlightening, that it is enlivening, that it is healing, that it is blessed and a blessing, that it is prosperous and prospering. Right here and right now in consciousness, we open up our hearts and minds and our very lives to receive the good that is right here and now. As we turn our attention to it, it flows to and through us. As we turn our attention to it, it heals us now. As we turn our attention to it, it blesses us now. As we turn our attention to us, it fills us now. We let our hearts and minds be filled with this good, as pure intelligence, as knowledge, as support, as love, as healing, as comfort, as compassion. I am so grateful and thankful to know this truth today. I'm so grateful and thankful to know God as spirit, love, and law, and know that it is operating, working right here and now. So with confidence, we let it be. With confidence, we let it do its work. With confidence, I release this prayer back into the law. Thank you, God, in, through, and as us. And together we say, amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
So it is.
And so it is. And so it must be. Yes, yes. Well, hello again. Happy Sunday and happy Mother's Day. It is so very good to be here with each and every one of you on this Sunday morning. I know there may be one or a few first-time guests, and if you are joining us for the very first time, you see the information here on your screen. It's very easy to stay in touch with us, as we would love to stay in touch with you. We are happy that you chose to hang out with us on this Sunday morning. However, you got here. We are happy that you're here, and we know that you will receive something that will inspire and empower you to live greatly and to thrive on this week. So as you see the information here on your screen, this is how you access our digital connection card. Just text the word welcome to 347-472-1078. Once you text that number, you'll receive a reply with a link to the digital connection card. Click that link, fill out the information, submit it, and you'll receive a follow-up text saying that you're all set. And indeed, you are all set at that moment, and you'll begin to receive our weekly email that goes out on Fridays and any other correspondence that happens throughout the week or throughout the months. Strap in, because it's going to be a good time, as it always is here at CSC, particularly as we are in our Masterclass now and studying the Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. You will receive something wonderful. So with that said, I think we can get into our announcements. And after our announcements, then we will proceed with the meditation and tap into class. We just wished you a happy Mother's Day, but we do want to make sure that we're intentional in taking this time to wish all of the mothers in our community and our grandmothers in the CSC community a happy Mother's Day. We are also remembering our mothers and grandmothers who are no longer with us. And we are also remembering those who have a complicated relationship with this day. We are also sending you love and sending you comfort on this day. What we remember spiritually, as we always affirm and name God as Mother, Father, God, we know that the presence of the mother is the very presence of God. And we take great care not to divorce the all that is from the reality of who and what God is as mother. It's impossible, in truth, if you think about it, it's impossible to talk about God and not use feminine language and not use motherly, nurturing, compassionate language about God. Unfortunately, some folks haven't gotten the message or the memo, but we continue to honor that reality and that truth in through and as all that we do at CSC. We are a church that believes in prayer, and so we gather together every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Momentum Prayer Call. We encourage you to join us because it is a wonderful way to set the intention for your day on that Wednesday for the middle of the week, to establish a vibration of truth, of affirmation, of knowing what is true. And so we gather together, we share a reading, and we pray, and then we go on about our day. We're holding the space for our entire community and also for our nation and our world through this prayer. If you're not able to join us live, then there is the playback number. Every prayer is recorded, and so you can use that playback number to access the most recent prayer at any time. If you have a prayer request, you can send us an email to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org. That email is received by the prayer champions as well as us as the pastors, and we will know the truth with you. We also encourage you to let us know when that prayer is answered or when there's a shift that happens. Send us an email as well to prayerchampions@celebrationsc.org and let us know that prayer is working in, through, and as your lives or the lives of your loved ones, whomever you are emailing on behalf of. Next Sunday is the third Sunday, and the third Sunday is God Talk Sunday. The God Talk is your opportunity to ask questions. One thing we think is highly necessary in spiritual communities, and particularly as you are learning metaphysical principles, learning new thought principles, and learning how to apply them to your life, and learning how to understand them, or learning how to acclimate yourself in this spiritual understanding, is the ability to ask questions and to ask any question. No question is off limits in the God Talk, and we find great joy in providing this free space, this open space, this compassionate space, this safe space, this loving space for your questions, and to support you in developing an understanding around whatever it may be. And so as we are virtual, the God Talk is happening via Zoom at 1 p.m. It happens every third Sunday. And so the Zoom link and password is sent to everyone that's on our mailing list. So for those of you, our first-time guests who you may have, you heard me about joining our mailing list and accessing the digital connection card, this is one reason why you may want to be on the list so that you can get this information. You'll see the information on how to sign up and access that card again throughout the stream. But you have to be on our mailing list to get the Zoom link and password, and we gather together at 1 p.m. for the God Talk. It is always awesome. So many wonderful questions come up, and it's always incredibly healing, incredibly healing. Sunday, May 29th, which is the last Sunday of this month, we will be closed. We will not be streaming. CSC will be closed for Memorial Day weekend, as we do every year. We hope that you take that time to relax and enjoy yourself in whatever way feels good to you in that weekend. And we look forward then to seeing you again in June. So that completes our announcements for today. And so now we can move into the meditation experience, which will be led so wonderfully by Pastor Yolanda.
Ah, yes, meditation time. The meditation experience, because it is more than just understanding these teachings or reading these teachings. It is feeling God alive within ourselves that makes us know our connection, that makes us remember our connection, that allows this love that we're speaking about this month to flow through us, through our ability to choose the lives that we want. Many times when we read these kinds of texts, we get a little judgmental about the choices we've made in the past. But what we get to remember and affirm this month is that no matter our choices, love is always present. No matter where we are in our emotion, love is always present. It is flowing in, through, and as us now. And so today we get to practice this affirmation, divine love. It's interesting this month, today that we're speaking about mothers, this divine understanding, this unconditional love is flowing through us now. Just as the waters are flowing in this image, that same power is flowing through us. And anytime we feel disconnected or uncertain about our choices and our lives, we can just close our eyes, take the breath, and affirm the divine love in all its forms, in all its understanding, and in all its power is flowing through us now. So, let's go ahead and prepare ourselves for this experience of connection, our one-to-one relationship with the divine. Each of us has it, and each of us is expressing it now. So, look around the room. Notice where you are. Whether you're seated upright in a chair, on your bed, on your sofa, that's the luxury of this time that we have. But make sure that you're seated upright. Allow the ears to align over the shoulders, shoulders over hips. So we're trying to create a nice long line of energy. Plant the palms on the tops of the thighs. Notice where you are physically in the space that you are, and that you are safe. Safe to be here with us, safe to allow divine love to flow, and safe to remember who you are. From this place of safety and divine love that is always flowing, let's close our eyes and begin the meditation experience. This experience always begins by noticing the breath, the energy that is flowing on the breath. We observe it, we judge it not. We are in gratitude that the breath is flowing. Whether it appears to be deep or shallow, that is not our concern. We are in gratitude and openness, receptivity for the breath. A few more rounds to just notice the breath is moving, that God is flowing on the breath. And that divine love is here now. Beautiful, everyone. Now, let's take conscious control of the breath, for we can send it wherever we choose, bringing our focus, embodying that focus, and sending the breath wherever we desire. From this place of awareness, send the breath into the low belly. We start at the low belly to establish this available space for the breath, to connect the breath in the body and deepen it, to relax the body as the breath flows. Together, inhale into the low belly, count to 4. Hold it there. And now release for a count of 4. Nice and easy. In through the low belly again, filling up and keeping a nice long spine, trying not to collapse the body, just making room for breath and for love. Hold it there. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, sigh it out. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, for as we elongate the connection, we make more room for love and the breath, expanding the sides and the front and the back of the body. Hold it there. Open the mouth, relax the jaw, sigh it out. Again, in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, feeling that nice expansion and opening. Hold it there. Now sigh it out. Relax that jaw and let everything go. In through the low belly, up through the rib cage, up through the heart. Center of the chest and across the chest, across the back. So much space for love to flow. Feel it now. Hold there. Again, without collapsing the body, drawing the navel in as you release and relax the jaw. Last time, in through the low belly, up through the rib cage, up through and to the heart. Hold it there. Relax the jaw and release. Sigh it out. Feels good to take the deep breath, the real, true, connected breath, in and all the way up. Hold it at the top. And this time, when you're ready, close the lips and exhale through the nose. There's plenty of room for breath. There's plenty of room for God. And there's more than enough room for love. A few rounds of this deep breath on your own, for we will use this form of breath work in and out through the nose for the remainder of our meditation. Last time to notice the breath in its full expression. Beautiful, everyone. Now let's take that full expression and send it as relaxation and love in, through, and as our bodies. Bring your focus to the feet. For we have beautiful understanding. We stand firmly on love. Notice if the toes feel any constriction, any tightness. Send breath there. Relax the feet. As we are grounded and rooted in love, we allow it to flow across the ankles, maintaining our flexibility and the ability to turn in the direction of our choices. Relax the ankles. Energy flows across the shins and calves. If we notice tension, we send breath and love there. Relax the shins and the calves. Like the waters, love flows. Allow it to flow across the knees. Relax the knees. There is no power that can obstruct love's flow, so allow love to flow across the thighs, the glutes, the hamstrings. Relax the thighs, the glutes, and now the hamstrings. For we are rooted and grounded and forever eternally connected to love. It's okay to relax the lower half of the body and tap into that deep channel of love that is flowing. Bring your mind and your awareness to the base of the spine. And together, as we breathe, we allow each part of that subtle body to open, become activated and balanced as the energy flows in and up. Exhale, allow more energy to flow in and up. Exhale and allow. Love has found an open channel to flow in and up. We exhale and we allow. In and up. Exhale. Allow. And one more time, in and up. Exhale and allow love to flow out the crown of the head, connecting to one another wherever we find ourselves on the planet, bringing the power of love back with us and affirming that divine love is flowing through us now. Back down through the crown, across the third eye, balancing, making its way to the throat, opening, across the shoulders and down the arms, out the fingertips. Feel yourself as a completely open channel for love, for inspired ideas that compel you to right action. Let love be love, all in, through, and as your experience. If you notice any tension, it's okay. Just send the love and the breath there. As we prepare for our silent time, if the mind wanders, it's perfectly okay. The mind is doing what the mind does, and we are grateful for it. For we can also choose to bring the mind back when we become aware to our affirmative thought. Divine love is flowing through me now. Divine love is available and flowing through me now. I willingly give divine love permission to flow through me now. Bring the mind back to our affirmative thought. Relax take the breath and feel your connection as we go into the silence now. With our eyes still closed, we enjoy this experience of connection. For no matter where we are in our experience, divine love is flowing through us now. With our eyes still closed, we lovingly and gently enjoy the sensations, but bring ourselves slowly back here, fully equipped with all the power that love offers to create the life of our choosing. And with our eyes closed, we make it an easy return, an easy remembering, an easy opening to love. And now let's go ahead and nice and easy wake the body. Bring it back online. Notice all of it. Expand the breath. Maybe wiggle the fingers and the toes, whatever you need to slowly begin your return into the physical. Bring palms together at heart center. Bow your chin to your fingertips and notice how gently the spine bends, opens, aligns. Slowly flutter the eyes open. Nice and easy. Soft gaze, soft return. Inhale, raise the chin, raise the gaze, release the breath. Namaste.
Yes, yes, yes. Namaste. Thank you, PY.
You're welcome.
Well, we are back as we are here to continue the Truth Sunday Masterclass, I've Got the Power, and we're studying The Power of Decision by Raymond Charles Barker. So if you are joining us for the very first time, we are not doing our normal service flow. We're in the Masterclass flow. And so we're taking you chapter by chapter, line by line through this text and teaching the text. It has already been powerful. It'll continue to be powerful. We're in chapter 3. And as you will see on the screen, if you have questions as you're reading, send those questions to truthsunday@celebrationsc.org, and we will incorporate those questions. So we have 2 questions today that are pointing to where we're going to in chapter 3, yeah, let's just jump in.
All right. Let me get my glasses on so I can see what God is saying.
Some things so I can see what's going on here. All right, that looks good. Okay, so here's where we left off last week here at this section, Stop Defining the Future. The utter finalities regarding the future is nonsense. Evolution, with its steadfast unfoldment, its law and order, will take place no matter what your peculiar opinions may be. The infinite is not going out of business, no matter what the mind of man concludes, prophesies, or speculates. You could hear that again. The infinite is not going out of business, no matter what the mind of man concludes, prophesies, or speculates. It will continue to be itself. Mm-hmm. A question that is asked of me several times a week is, do you believe in life after death? Of course I do. Knowing myself as consciousness, I have ceased to know myself as merely body and sensation. What dies? Certainly it cannot be consciousness that dies, for consciousness is independent of the body, even when it is using body. Dreams are independent of body. They have no conscious connection with it. The future is an unfoldment of consciousness, an unfoldment of ideas, revealing to me what I really am. This consciousness has its own means of functioning on all planes. Mm-hmm. The intelligence that produced my present body will take care of me when I leave it. It knows how to fulfill me as its consciousness through all time and in all space. Being will keep right on being. I exist in this being as this being. Right? And this is incredibly important when we start to think about and wrap our minds around some of the spiritual truths and the principles that we're able to make use of, right? Many of you have studied or read in A Course in Miracles the idea of not being a body, right? And of course, this is a spiritual idea that we hear across many different traditions. But and the reason why that it's important to understand is not to dismiss the body. Right? And we've already read that earlier in the chapter. It's very important. We don't dismiss our body or, call it nothing and not pay attention to things that are happening in the body or with the body. But we also must recognize that because our body is our vehicle for consciousness, understanding that we're consciousness is really what gives us power. Right? Understanding we're consciousness is the reason why even the most horrific things experienced in the body can't destroy our spirit or our will, right? And so this is why people are celebrated as they continue to push through or, have gone through awful, sometimes abusive circumstances, and they still triumph. My mind is going to Tina Turner right now, whose life is celebrated from that perspective. But the reason that was possible is because she's consciousness, right? It's because of that beingness. And actually, that's what she tapped into, right? As she began to study Buddhism and began the Nam Myoho chant, right? That's what she was tapping into. I am one with the rhythm of life, right? She was tapping into the very thing that Barker is saying here when he's talking about being will keep right on being. I exist in this being as this being. She had to consciously come into an awareness of that, which then gave her the strength to leave that situation and the strength to know that she would be taken care of. That powerful scene where she's like, the only thing I want is my name. I don't want anything else, right? Because she was one with God. She was one with consciousness, and that was everything, right?
And it was as if in that moment of waking up to her awareness of being consciousness, all the power rushed in to provide her with right inspired actions. Leave,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so we're all, no matter where we are in our experience, whatever has transpired in this physical body, this power is always available to rush in through and as us when we are ready,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. 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 Being an individualization of it now, I shall never be less. I can only be more of it, for the trapdoor of intuition will never close, and I shall always be more aware of myself as consciousness. Therefore, the physical body, enjoyable as it is not a necessity to my forward moving. I am consciousness, has neither beginning nor end. It only has continuous unfoldment. This is the truth of who you really are.
And that's why it doesn't matter what the physical representation of the body is either. People that are differently abled, that same power is moving through them as well.
Yep.
We can't get caught up in what the body is supposed to look like.
Right.
It is the consciousness flowing through that vessel.
Right, and we marvel, right? You know, there are folks that are celebrated that are I can't think of the brother's name right now, who right is differently abled, and I think he doesn't have legs or arms. He's this motivational speaker that goes around the world and inspires thousands of people, right? Because consciousness is flowing in through and as him, and he's aware of that, right? The body is not a limitation, however it presents. I love how you just said that, right? And that you're bringing our minds to that. Doesn't matter. Tall, short, old, young, all of that stuff doesn't matter. Right? Because consciousness neither has beginning nor end. It only has continuous unfoldment. Life can only be to me what I am to it. Knowing myself as all life, not just a fraction of it, I am set free from the delusion of beginnings and endings. Appearance and disappearance at the level of the sense does not mean beginning and ending of consciousness. This is a deep thought. This is a really, really deep thought. Appearance, right? So here on the five sense world, right? Things appear and they disappear, right? People in our lives, loved ones, they appeared, they lived, and they disappeared, right? They transitioned. Jobs appear and disappear. Relationships appear and disappear. Certain bank account balances appear and disappears. And that's at the level of the senses. But that does not indicate beginning and ending of consciousness. But this is exactly what we do, right? We think God or consciousness or the power that is gone when the disappearance happens on the sense level. And what we must come to a clear understanding around is that when things disappear on the sense level, it still exists on the consciousness level.
It's very true. And it's interesting on thinking of it around Mother's Day, for me personally, right? I had to tap in today to that consciousness of my mother and my grandmothers who are no longer here. And I wanted to represent all of that power and love. So I put on yellow because they all loved bright. Like I can still bring into my experience and that awareness that energy that they represented in the physical form is still here now. Here now is me, and here now when I'm even gone. That energy and consciousness around that love, that truth, that power, that bright light is still here.
Right. But here's the thing, it's still here in consciousness, which then allows you to bring it forth into the senses. So that's the thing, right? That it exists in consciousness, and then that means that we can always experience it again in the senses. Right? If it did not exist, she could not then manifest that energy.
I couldn't call it up. I couldn't call up the memory of it.
And
I couldn't call
experience
up the love of it and experience it here now.
There you go. It denotes the way consciousness works. The consciousness which can cause appearance and disappearance at the level of senses uses this means as a form of self-expression, but this form is one of untold numbers of forms. untold numbers of forms. And one of the things that's so interesting, for me, in grasping this, I love looking at our space exploration, right? And to the extent that we're still discovering galaxies, right? Way out, trillions of light years away from here, creation is happening, expression is happening in the five sense. Because it can be observed, right? To the extent that we create instruments that allow us to observe it, right? So we know that it exists in the five sense world, but the form is untold. Mm-hmm. Untold. I mean, we haven't even explored the depths of the ocean. There's all kinds of forms and beings and God expressing and self-expression of consciousness that's happening, and we have no awareness of it. And they have no awareness of us, right? From their perspective, we're out here in our part of the earth experiencing and talking and living, and they have no awareness of consciousness and form expressing as us. The tomato I ate yesterday did not stop the creating of tomatoes next spring. To me, it was the appearance and disappearance of the tomato. To the creative process, it was the logical culmination of its creation of that particular tomato. Mm-hmm. Lord have mercy.
Talk about the never-ending cycle of increase, of availability, of constant creation, of endlessly creating.
Mm-hmm. The human body, like the tomato, is subconscious intelligence operating as form. But you are not only subconscious intelligence, you are also conscious intelligence. Mm-hmm. Subconscious intelligence appears and disappears at the form level. Conscious consciousness is never seen, never measured, and has no form. This is what you really are. This produces form, but is never imprisoned by the form it produces. See, this is why then we can affirm things and understand that we don't even acknowledge evil in the sense of it having power to stop us, right? And why we can say things and understand that we can change the conditions and change our circumstance, change the thought, change the condition, all of that stuff, right? Because it is never imprisoned by the form it produces. He goes on, knowing this, you are functioning at a level where death is unknown as a finality, but is observed as a part of the continuous progressive unfoldment of ideas. Your decisions regarding the near or distant future should always have a loophole in them. They should never be final. Place no false mortgages on the great business of living. Expect the unexpected. There is nothing wrong with creative optimism. It is using mind as mind intended itself to be used. That is, for the production of something better than that which has gone before. You are the individual who yet shall be. You are potential. You are not the individual of the now. You are the becoming person, and you do this by realizing that you are consciousness. The more this point is driven home, the more you will see yourself as limitless. Individuality is limitless because it is the individualization of that cause which is forever free. You are unlimited, unbounded consciousness and awareness. You, in truth, are forever free. And we have the opportunity, knowing this, to embrace this, embody this, and then allow that to express it in and as our individual forms.
Right. And just as we are expressing as these forms, no decision that we've made that we feel is a mistake is final.
There you go.
None of them.
That this idea of you should always have a loophole, right? There's an eternal loophole for your success. Like, regardless of what's going on. Yeah, I know it looks final. I know your back is against the wall. I know things are terrible. I've been in terrible situations, and I thought I had no hope, no recourse. I thought in some cases at a point in my life, I thought I was being punished for mistakes that I had made. I knew for sure that God was mad at me. But there is a loophole. And that loophole is for our success. And if that loophole did not exist, there's no way that I could have changed or reversed any conditions or circumstances in my life.
Or experiences that you had,
Right.
right? You know, we talk a lot about childhood experiences. Those situations happened, but they're not permanent determination of your future, of your potentiality, of any of those things.
And this next sentence, all definitions are temporary in meaning. The only power they have is that of the instant. Right? Again, going back to A Course in Miracles, right? I have given everything all the meaning that it has for me, right? I'm upset because I only see the past, right? Which is about the meaning that we've applied. But the only power they have is that of the instant. They have this power only because of your belief. We are always redefining ourselves, thus reaffirming our limitations. This reminds me of something I've heard from Abraham Hicks, understanding that we actually, every day is brand new, right? And so when we think, well, my life hasn't changed, it's the same thing every day, it's because we're actually defining it over and over again based on those unwanted beliefs. If you think about it's like a grid that's being filled in every day. The grid actually is blank, but we fill it in with what we believe to be true about life or ourselves or our relationships or our interactions, right? Thus, it is a redefinition every day. It's a reaffirming every day and filling it in. And again, unconsciously, we're not aware that we get to actually fill in the day, right? And so this is why we have practices like a daily spiritual practice and using practices. I'm thinking about Dr. Joe Dispenza and the way, for me, he was the person that introduced me to this idea of creating my day. I'm thinking about in What the Bleep, where he talks about how he creates his day. And so that's then a redefining and a reaffirming that's no longer redefining and reaffirming limitations, but is now redefining and reaffirming expansion. Now is redefining and reaffirming surprise. Now is reaffirming and redefining, as Barker talked about, expecting the unexpected, expecting good. Redefining and reaffirming, expecting harmony. Right? I had a wonderful experience yesterday. I was slightly annoyed as I was on the subway for a host of reasons, dealing with folks on the subway. But you know what happened? My mind was taken back to my reading from that morning that was affirming the love of God in, through, and as me, flowing to all and flowing back. And I was reminded in that moment of what I had read that was supporting me and remembering that that's God in form right there, right? And it supported me in shifting and changing the experience that I was having, right? But that's because of the redefining and reaffirming work that I had done in the beginning of the day. A definition is a fence. It is a wall we build around a concept, thinking it to be a truth. Truth can never be defined. It can only be experienced at the level of our present consciousness. Sounds like something Pastor Yolanda reminds us of often, every Sunday, actually, as we move into the meditation experience, right? It can only be experienced at our level of present consciousness. Your definition of an opera after first hearing it will be quite different from your opinion after hearing it 20 times. The Spirit of God in you cannot be defined in the dictionary sense, for consciousness is always beyond definition. It is that which at the instant is. By its very nature, it can never remain the same. Nothing in your real being is constant. You as consciousness are not the same who read the opening page of this chapter. This is not because you have agreed with the ideas presented. In fact, you may have disagreed heartily with these concepts. Your very agreement or disagreement has changed your consciousness. Clarification. By this time, you may be asking what all this has to do with making decisions.
I love he said that.
Will it help you select your next home? Will it help you in making decisions in your business? It most certainly will do just that. Any ideas that shift your attention from effect to cause clear consciousness.
Yeah, underline
Hear that again. Hear that again.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm going to highlight it. I didn't highlight it, but that's a powerful one. Any ideas that shift your attention from effect to cause clear consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it should be clears consciousness, but I'm reading what's there on the page, right? And this is important. This is what we're always admonishing you to do, right? To move from effect to cause, because cause is where the power is. And when you move to cause, it clears consciousness. That's what happened to me on the subway.
Right, a reset.
Right? It cleared my consciousness.
Right, and we're talking about any effect, anything out here in
Yes.
the world that is causing you to feel any emotion that is unwanted, that is taking you off your focus of what you desired or wanted to create. Any of those effects, right? When you shift your focus away, we tell you all the time, turn away from the condition and focus on the cause, right? Ultimate cause.
Right. On cause, right? Yeah. I have been explaining what I believe you to really be. You have to be more than that which you think you really are. There must be more to life than paying bills, raising families, and achieving some material success. For thousands of years, religion and philosophy have been seeking answers to the above ideas. Both systems of thought have raised up great minds to wrestle with the problems of life. Great enlightenment and enrichment have come from these men and women who sought to see humankind in a larger framework. A few of them glimpsed the individual as he is in the infinite order and proclaimed our possibility. Others saw humanity entrenched in materiality and placed their attention on our errors of omission, and commission. They sought ways and means of making humankind good. From their theological and philosophical systems have come most of today's traditional thinking. They state that the individual makes mistakes or wrong decisions because it is our basic nature to do so. With this, I cannot agree. I am certain that our basic nature is of a higher level than making wrong decisions. There is something of God in every person. I call this individuality. Again, I return to the premise, I am consciousness. This is a definition of you that is beyond the frame of reference known as good and evil. It is the uncontaminated you. It is you as potential. It is not you as an accumulation of experience that includes good and evil. It is the you who moves through experience but is untouched by the problems and the decisions of experience. This is why it is blasphemous to say things like, my soul is broken, my spirit is broken. I know what you mean when you say that. I know what others mean when they say it. But there is a you that remains untouched. That is consciousness, right? That is the non-physical you, spirit, soul, consciousness. I'm using these words synonymously right now. But it is incredibly important. There is something of you that exists beyond and before duality. I'm reminded of a sermon I did years ago, the Unreality of Duality, because this is part of what we have to move past in order to tap into the reality that we are consciousness.
Absolutely. And we may experience all kinds of emotions in this physical form. But that which is constant is not bothered or changed by that, by those experiences. And so part of what we're really doing when we say I feel broken, my soul is broken, is that we really want someone to witness us, to see us in our fullest self and to know that truth for us, and to just compassion for whatever experience that is causing us to feel so much emotion and pain.
Right. And thank you. And this is not a dismissing of the emotion or the feeling. It's just a recognition that when we speak about our non-physical self, that's the part that actually can never be broken.
Right.
But
it's
yes,
almost as if we anthropomorphize our soul to make it more human.
Yeah.
When the soul extends beyond what is human, right? And so therefore it cannot be. That's why we can say these things. It cannot be broken. It's not damaged. It's
Right.
not ruined by the experiences.
Right.
Because we, as in this human form, try to make everything human,
Right.
try to make everything understandable and make
God,
sense.
right,
God,
yeah.
everything in the human form. We forget that what we're talking about here is that which is you, which is beyond the human form. Not negating the human form, but understanding there is more to you than meets the eye.
Right. Right. And the beautiful story and allegory, myth of the Adam and Eve story, right, in the Garden of Eden, that's what this was about. The reason that the Garden of Eden represents the I am consciousness place. But as soon as they believed in good and evil, right, because that's what they ate of. It's so funny. It's like it's right there. They ate of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Once they moved into that awareness of separation and other, it happened with them first. Oh wait, we're different. Oh wait, I need to cover myself from you. Oh, I need to hide from God.
Right, they separated themselves from God.
Right. And I can't highlight this enough because the question that God asked them, right? Who told you you were naked?
Meaning, who told you were separate? Who told you were full of sin?
Who told you to be afraid of me?
Who told you to be afraid of that which you already are?
Right, right. And so the punishment was because of the belief in and the living from this good and evil, and stepping away from the I am consciousness, stepping away from this thing that, as Barker writes, it is the you who moves through experience but is untouched by the problems and the decision of experience. Right? So God, the Garden of Eden, symbolically represents this I am consciousness space. And what do we know about the Garden of Eden? Everything was there.
Everything was there. Everything was one. Everything was beautiful.
It was paradise, right? All of that stuff. Right.
I think the other issue is that we feel like we can't return to that space. But part of this whole human experience is returning to that place in our mind, no matter what's happening here.
It's the loophole.
It's the loophole. It's the remembering.
You get back.
You can get back. Right? And it ain't by being admonished of your sins or baptized or cleansed, any of those things. It's just a return to that place in your own mind that you never in truth left.
Yeah. Yeah. Great spiritual thinkers have stated that the world we live in from the age of 1 to 100 years is an experience world, but not a final world. Most religions declare this. I am certain this is so. Therefore, I explain my ideas that as you enlarge your self-concept
I wish that were a capital S.
and see yourself in a larger picture, you are wiser and your decisions will be wiser. I want to say that again. As you enlarge your self-concept and see yourself in a larger picture, this picture that we've been talking about, you are wiser and your decisions will be wiser. First of all, you will cease your worrying over wrong decisions. If this book does nothing more than that, it shall have a valuable reason for being written. We have wept too long over the past and what it might have been had we been wiser. This is not only useless contemplation, it is a negative one, and therefore places further negation in the subconscious mind for it to digest and probably manifest.
Right, because what you're doing is you're setting yourself up from a place of, I did it wrong. I can't ever do it right. So even if new ideas entered your consciousness, you would be afraid to try them for the fear of making another mistake.
Right. Right.
And like he said, I want to free you from ever worrying about wrong decisions. You know, he talks a lot about all the things that, quote unquote, we've been doing incorrectly.
Right.
But his purpose in talking about all of this is to free you from doing that in the future.
Right. Right. And beating yourself up for it.
And beating yourself up for it. And therefore keep creating it, keep thinking about the wrong mistakes, and keep fearing the inspired ideas that are coming in, and keep trying to live the way you used to live, and keep trying to hedge your bets against making further mistakes.
Right, right. Wrong decisions. Any wrong decision you have ever made will become unimportant when your attention is shifted from it to a creative reason for living right here and now. The adult mind, proceeding with the business of living, is forced by the necessity of thinking in the now to forget the mistakes of childhood. You know that you cannot go forward by thinking backward. Experience has taught you a great deal, and you use the wisdom of that experience to handle the affairs at hand. New ideas are always as near as your next thought.
I love that.
Mind,
No, go ahead.
mind is inexhaustible, and you are an individualization of mind. You are an adult person in an adult world, and your thinking must be that of the adult. Every moment of your waking hours, you are making decisions. Most of these will be right. A few of them may be wrong. Over a period of time, you may discover that the decisions which you thought were wrong were actually right. Hello, somebody. I've been there. Often the mist of material thinking beclouds our sense of values. Time clears our vision, and we see things as they really are. No power is sitting in judgment on any person. If you have not highlighted or underlined that, please do. It cannot be said enough. No power is sitting in judgment of any person. In the older systems of thought, we eased our guilt load by believing that God would punish us later for our errors. Now we see that this is not so. All guilt is self-guilt. There are no records being kept except in our own subconscious memory field. There is no deity to judge or punish. There is only life proceeding, and those who can minimize their mistaken decisions proceed with life as life. The larger your understanding of yourself as consciousness, the freer you are of guilt. This cannot be said enough. There's no deity to judge or punish.
If anything, consciousness, God, is guaranteeing your sinlessness, as A Course in Miracles would say.
There are no records being kept. And when I read that, it reminds me, and that often, as people of color and black and brown folks all around the world, in some way, shape, or form, were colonized and working in some way for the oppressors. And part of what that scenario was about was there was a record keeping, right? You had to pick enough cotton, right? You had to pick enough bananas. You had to pick enough sugar cane. You had to pick enough tea. You had to pick enough rice, right? I mean, we can go. I'm going to Asia. I'm going to Africa, right? All over the planet. Right, there's this consciousness around record keeping, and then that created hierarchy amongst the oppressed, right? Because I can pick more than you, right? I can carry more than you. I can right.
Right. It all started from that need to survive.
Right. And so it makes sense then that a people whose life and safety, right, and ability to provide for their family, because that was all through that lens, would see God through that same lens, right, and develop this spiritual negative God concept around record keeping, because you want to be, Lord knows you want to be in good favor with God.
In the form of the oppressor, the colonizer, that became the God.
Right, because you remember all the images of God or Jesus were white men. So, that's where the whole connection happened. Right. And so it is incredibly freeing to know that there are no records being kept. No records. There is no spiritual IRS. No records, right? There is no spiritual credit bureau. No records.
There is no spiritual educational system.
Right. I was just about to say that. Report cards.
No records.
There's no spiritual GPA. Right? Except what we keep in our own subconscious memory. But this is so freeing. And even if consciously we're not aware of it, generationally, and this is real, right? Genetically, these things are passed on in subtle and unconscious ways. That's why we all, and again, particularly black and brown folks, but it's everywhere, right? You hear the ways that we kind of just even jokingly talk about God, or, I always, when joke, see, God don't like ugly, right? See, all that literally is rooted in there's a deity that punishes and judges.
Right, and it makes sense from a consciousness, a collective consciousness, subconsciousness, that believes in this idea from the very beginning, who told you you were naked, and then just keeps passing it down throughout time, creates systems where, in this case, the colonizer decides, well, I'm going to get mine now, because I know I'm not going to get mine later. All of that stuff, it all goes together.
You place your attention on bringing to pass your next right action. Right? That's powerful, right? Think about that. If that's where you operate from, you've made a mistake. You have the results of the mistake, right? You you baked the cake and it wasn't sweet because you didn't put sugar in it. Okay. So what is my next right action from here if I still want a delicious pound cake?
Right.
Right? That's the way we have to begin to treat ourselves and think about ourselves.
I forgive myself and I set myself free is basically what he's saying.
Hallelujah.
Free to create a next right step.
Right.
Free to bake a new cake. Free to start a new job. Free to create a new relationship. Free to move wherever you want in the world.
Right.
Free to allow perfect health to flow through your body. Just free now.
Your optimism is undisturbed. You have learned from your mistakes, but you are not stymied by them. This is the way of progressive order, the way of creative thinking. Goal decisions. Man does not live by bread alone. He lives by making decisions. In many years of counseling people, I have learned a great deal about the art and science of making healthy decisions. Most of the people who have consulted with me were in problems. These problems were mainly the result of wrong decisions. Always they ask, why did I do it? The most unloving question many times we can ask. Psychology has the answer to that one, and the explanations of the psychologists are helpful. But there has to be more than an explanation of why a negative situation happened. There has to be hope. Unless I can revive a hope in these people, I cannot help them. Hope is a spiritual potential in everyone's mind. Too many people use it as a fantasy and as a delusion, as a means of dodging the decisions that need to be made at the moment. But many times I have noted that people in trouble need to have the potential of hope revived in their consciousness while still realizing that the decisions of the present cannot be avoided. The hope revived clears their negative considerations a bit. It lessens their questions regarding their trouble. It starts them thinking ahead with some optimism, slight though it may be. It quickens the spirit within them and lets light begin to lessen their darkness. There has to be an expectancy of approaching good for a mind to be healthy. Tomorrow has to be interesting in order to live creatively. The depressed person does not know this. And he's not using this word clinically. Right? That's important. The attention is fixed upon why he or she is in the problem. The creative thinker's attention is fixed on how to get out of their problem. It might benefit the reader of this book to pause and find out which attitude is theirs. It is obvious that there are no final problems. There is always a solution to any situation. This is not only a platitude, it is a truth. Every remedial science and art is premised on this truth. There is always a way out. Many never find it because of their negative, defeated attitudes. Every remedial science and art has its failures as well as its successes. Many will read this book, proclaim it valuable, and profit by it not at all. Others will assimilate the ideas in it, which they are in accord, and find them very useful in making decisions. So I want to stop there because the two questions we have are about these two paragraphs that we just read, talking about hope and expectancy. So let's grab the questions and then we can talk about it. So let's see. Okay. So the first question, there has to be an expectancy of approaching good for the mind to be healthy. Tomorrow has to be interesting in order to live creatively. Again, we just read that. And so the question, is not the present moment the place where we create from? As time is an illusion, isn't the only place to create from is the now or in the now? Okay. So this is a good question, and there's some wonderful things to unpack, particularly as we're thinking about time, and Barker has been writing about time and in the beginning of this chapter, and to understand something. So at the outset, I think it's important to make sure y'all can see us. Oh, there we go. Okay. So at the outset, I think it's important to just touch on the premise, right? Because when we ask a question like, as time is an illusion, then isn't the only place to create from the now, right? So it's an if-then statement. So first, I want to be clear that we want to be careful when we use a statement like time is an illusion. The reason being is because it's used often and it's many times dismissive, and it doesn't fully capture what the truth is. Now, Barker wrote about it early in the beginning of this chapter. Time is a marker or a measure of eternity. So a marker or a measure of eternity is not an illusion, right? It's not something to just cast aside. And also, this is not the reason why we only create from the now, right? Because time is eternal, and as it's experienced from our present vantage point, there is only now and now and now and now and now. Now I can mark this now and call it whatever time it is right now, 12:12 and 3 seconds. But the next now is 12:12 and 7 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, it is true. The present moment is where we create from. But what is he talking about in this sentence? Tomorrow has to be interesting in order to live creatively.
So he's not trying to get into a discussion about the illusory nature of time in that way. He's trying to talk more about how you get to use this eternal idea of time that we in human form have defined for our favor.
Right. But he's really not talking about time, because this is about hope. Right. That's what this section is all about, right? So that's what I want to get to. He says there has to be an expectancy of good in the mind. Tomorrow has to be interesting. So tomorrow is a word that we use to measure eternity, right? Because whatever...
To measure time.
Right. To measure eternity. Mm-hmm. What we experience as tomorrow, we have to have a measurement for it. We have a word for it, right? But what he's saying here is that you have to have hope. That's what this is about.
Right,
he's saying that
time at all, really.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's not about time at all. He's admonishing us to understand that hope is necessary, optimism is necessary, positive expectancy is necessary. So there has to be an expectancy of approaching good for the mind to be healthy. And it's very important. I mean, just think about it for a second. If you think the world's going to end tomorrow, most people will be like, well, I don't need to pay that bill. Let's do. You know what I'm saying? Anything that's happening tomorrow, or you wouldn't even think about experiencing any good or expressing any good or sharing any good, because you have no positive expectation or optimism about the next now. That's all tomorrow is.
I was going to say, and that's a better way of saying tomorrow. It's just the next now. So
right.
We're thinking, in our human linear form of tomorrow being the next day. Tomorrow is just the next now. So you get to create tomorrow with the new thought that you think now.
Exactly.
So tomorrow could be the next day in 24-hour time span, or it could just be the next thought, the next experience.
Right.
That's tomorrow.
Right. And so again, it's very important not to kind of move ourselves outside of what the text is actually talking about, right? And so it's really poetic language that he's using here when
absolutely.
He says tomorrow has to be interesting in order to live creatively. He's saying you have to be optimistic. You have to express positive expectancy and live in that space. Right. It's necessary in order to live creatively.
And we're not trying to go off into in a different direction and talk about time as illusionary, because that's not what he's really focusing on here. Mm-hmm. And so the time as an illusion can be a very long discussion class, masterclass,
right?
That won't necessarily be beneficial in what he's talking about now. So keep it in the context of what he's talking about.
Right. And so the next question is about this section as well. Mental expectancy is the key to mental health or mental... have we read this part yet?
I don't
I
think
think it's
so.
the next part. So
Yeah.
let's read that part and then we'll get to it. All right. But right, yeah, it's
It's the next
all
paragraph.
interrelated because we're talking about hope. But I want to make sure we read
What he
that
says. Yeah.
what he says first.
And so I trust that this is helping people kind of break apart any thoughts about time when what he's focused on is the idea of hope and the importance of hope, which is what we're about to talk about.
Right. So, right, here's the next line, right? Mental expectancy is the key to mental health or mental depression. Behind all this is the fact of the long range goal. I want to say again, when we're hearing the words mental health and mental depression, particularly even as we're in Mental Health Awareness Month, he's not using these as clinical terms around mental health, right? He's really talking about clear consciousness, right? As we talked about clearing our consciousness earlier. Behind all of this is the fact of the long-range goal. Does the person have one or don't they? Upon this question hinge the results that the person can have from a remedial science or art. Although I have discussed this in the previous chapters, I need to reemphasize it from a new angle. Some years ago, a member of my church came to me for consultation. During the conversation, she told me of her long-range goal. It was a negative one, and most certainly an immoral one. Judging from my years of experience in counseling, it was neither a new one nor, to me, a disturbing one, for I knew it could be changed. At least she had a long-range goal. That was more than many people who I counseled had in life. This woman knew where she wanted to go in life. I listened and did not sit in judgment. I knew that the mental process which had clarified her thought in the direction of a negative could also clarify her thought in the direction of a positive. After much discussion, this is exactly what took place in her consciousness. Her mental and emotional energies responded to the new goal with the same enthusiastic fervor that they had responded to the previous goal. Okay. So again, the next question, it's all interrelated here, but it's about this piece that we just read. Mental expectancy is the key to mental health or mental depression. Behind all this is the fact of the long-range goal. Does the person have one or doesn't he or she? So the question, is this mental expectancy because Barker feels hope is a spiritual potential in everyone's mind? I have had New Thought teachers say that hoping and wishing are not as direct good as knowing when doing spiritual mind treatment. I know I am blank versus I hope or I wish blank. Now, I love this question because this supports us in doing some cleanup, right? Because, right, yes, mental expectancy is the key to mental health or mental depression. And he goes on to tell the story, right, that this woman had an expectancy, right, but it was actually the thing that she was expecting was something that ultimately was negative and would not have given her positive results and wanted results, right? But that was her expectancy, right? And then but shifting that expectancy to something that was positive and beneficial and constructive led to well-being, right? Again, mental health versus mental depression. Again, we're talking about well-being or the opposite of well-being.
Right. We have to remember the time in which this text was written, and that he is not a professional in that field.
Right. And so hope, so is mental expectancy? Yes, because hope is a spiritual potential in everyone's mind. But in this case, he's not just talking about hope in the sense of positive expectation because of the story that he tells, recognizing that we can expect something that's to our detriment, right? We can expect something and even think we want it. This is where ideas are like the grass is greener on the other side. And then we get on the other side and find out the grass is terrible, right?
It's turf.
Right? So really that's what he's talking about here. That sentence is about the fact that our expectancy, and many times we're unaware that we're expecting things that are actually to our detriment. And also our mental expectancy, we can expect things that lead to our well-being, right? And that is the key, right? That is the link that if we look at our results, was our result well-being or was our result something that was unwanted? We can look back at what we were expecting consciously or unconsciously. That's what mental expectancy is.
Right, and you can see these, if you look at that mental health, mental depression, things that will send us in the direction of well-being or stagnate, depress, delay, deny, right? So it's not about some psychological diagnosis.
No, yeah.
So it's important that that you see us say that and hear us say that. Because this is a great question. Many people may have had the same idea or thought about it, or just assumed they understood what he was saying, and we want to declare that up for you.
Right. Now, the second part of this question, this is the real cleanup. I have had New Thought teachers say that hoping and wishing are not as direct or good as knowing when doing spiritual mind treatment. I know I am something versus I hope or wish I am. So let's go back to the text. Let's go back to what he writes, because it's true. Every New Thought teacher, including ourselves, have said it and teach it, right? That there can be something problematic by hope. I'm thinking about, it's one of the first, I think it was in the first month of CSC, one of the messages that I preached was acting as if or acting a wish, right? To clarify this idea of, are we knowing or are we wishing, right? Now, Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind, and I'm pretty sure I quoted and read it in that sermon, right? Ernest Holmes writes, and we read this in January because it's in the first 4-part introduction of The Science of Mind, right? He says, hope is better than despair. So there's the first thing. See, we have to be clear. Sometimes we can hear somebody say, oh, I shouldn't hope, I shouldn't wish. Right. Oh, this is bad. And we get into a binary looking at, this or that, black or white kind of thing. Ernest Holmes writes, hope is better than despair, which says hope is good. Here, if we look at here what's on the text, hope is a spiritual potential in everyone's mind. But then he goes on and says, too many people use it as a fantasy, as a delusion, as a means of dodging the decisions that need to be made at the moment. But many times I have noted that people in trouble need to have the potential of hope revived in their consciousness, right? That's the thing. So that place where Ernest Holmes writes about hope is better than despair, but then he goes, but it's a subtle illusion. And he goes on, that's the passage that inspired me to write the song, Expect the Good, because he goes on and says, always expect the good. This is that positive optimism that Barker is writing here. So it's not that hope is bad. It's not that we shouldn't hope. It's not that there's something wrong with hope, right? Because it really has to do with where we are. We talked about it the other day. The emotional scale.
Emotional scale. If you're familiar with Abraham
Hicks, yeah,
the emotional scale, you're moving up the emotional scale. It's better to have hope than despair.
Exactly.
Right. So you're actually transmuting the energy and the thought and the flow, moving towards expectancy. But you got to move beyond where you were, which might be despair, like all is lost. And so you're moving up that emotional scale. Right. And so we don't want to deny the use of hope. We just don't get stuck in hope and using hope to think we're making a decision about what's next, or to avoid making a decision about it. We step into hope and then we keep going.
Yeah. See, hope is beneficial and hope is also limited.
Right.
That's the thing. It's also limited. What I'm reminded of when we talked about this, I'm thinking about when Barack Obama was elected, right? Now, so much of his campaign was rooted in 2 words, hope and change. Lord knows we needed some hope, right? Lord knows it was only hope that allowed people to think it was possible for a black man to be elected in this racist country. Right.
That was hope, and that was important.
Right, and to believe that he would live. Right. Wyclef had written the song, if I was president, I'd be I'd be elected on Monday and assassinated by Friday. I'm paraphrasing the lyric. But that was a belief that ran through the minds and hearts of most black folk.
And with good reason, right?
Right. So there had to be hope that this country would elect a black man, hope that he would live, right, and not be assassinated by the end of the week, right? Hope for all of those things, and then hope that we could get out of this war that has became a 20-year war, right? Hope that there were so many that was just That's like getting out of bed. Right? We believe we could just get out of, okay, I can get out of bed today. I just have a little bit of hope that something good will happen, right? And change will happen, right? But the thing about it was everybody rallied together around hope. Folks elected Barack Obama, but hope is limited. See,
Right,
then there was the time we needed to rally around together and do the work.
Do the work, the next step. Hope wasn't enough.
One election wasn't enough.
One election wasn't enough. One person wasn't enough.
Exactly.
That's where we get where it becomes slippery and we can get stuck.
Right.
Right?
And so hope is beneficial, but it's limited.
It's
right?
limited.
Right? It gets you started.
And so don't use the word illusory in terms of no use.
Right.
It is useful.
Right.
It's an important step. If I didn't hope that my life could be different, I would probably still be where I was, thinking what I was thinking. But I had hope, and then I took the inspired next steps, the right action to move beyond it, right? To move into the next. And it maintained my sense of expectancy. So hope is always there.
Yeah.
Right? So it's important to have it. But if we thought one person being elected was going to change everything, if we thought all we had to do was go back to sleep after we left the polls, right? There's more to it.
There's more to it. And that's what he's saying. And that's why I love what he writes, right? Too many people use it as a fantasy, as a delusion, dodging the decisions.
Right.
Right.
Oh, I hope this, I hope
right.
this going to work out.
Burying their heads in the sand.
But that ain't even hope.
Right.
Because it's truth. You're saying the word, but you mean something else. Hope says, I know this will work out. I might not know how, but I'm willing to take the next step. I'm willing to move in the direction that life is sending me. I'm willing to let go of the things that I made mistakes around. I'm willing to forgive myself and set myself free. I have hope.
And then that leads us along the path towards knowing.
Right?
Yeah.
Some people say, I hope all is well. I've now changed that. I trust all is well. So I get the hope. Right. I understand the hope.
Right.
But I trust now because I know life is well or can be well or you're moving towards well. Right? So I say I trust that all is well. I never open saying I hope all is well. I always say I trust that all is well. Because I do trust that wherever you are in your experience, that you are moving along this continuum fostered by hope in the direction of the good.
Right. Because I trust the power that's
Yeah,
behind
I
it. That's
trust
where
that
my
power.
trust is.
I trust that power.
I know that you're one with it. Yes, Lord. Let's read this last section and then we'll close for today. When is good, good. Too many of the people with whom this world labels as good are actually static, frightened people. They lack the courage to do wrong. This is not true goodness, as you well know. It is static consciousness maintaining the present in the hope that it is the answer. Only a mind with a creative goal is a sound mind, what I would call a good mind. To stand still in life and maintain the present with a battery of cliches is actually a disintegrating process. It may appear on the surface that this person is succeeding. He or she may be a model citizen, a devoted parent, and the epitome of character. But death is at work in their consciousness, and in rare moments, they sense that all is not well with their life. The world has never been enriched by the standing still people of virtue. Creative thinkers thinking progressively have wrought the procession of progress. Their goodness was not only in their morality, but in their forward-searching minds. No matter how good and comfortable the present might have been, these men and women risk discomfort to explore that which could be. This is true goodness, and it is yours if you want it. Perhaps you are too comfortable in life. All your decisions are about the everyday matters of living. You think you are secure, both in the now and in the years to come. You may be the one who needs a dramatic change. The routines of comfort always resist dramatic change. The routines they want no new decisions to challenge the security of the moment. They have faith in their innate goodness and believe themselves to be the people worthy of heaven. Your goal and your decisions regarding it are vital to you. Spiritual thinking is never now thinking. Finished ideas are not creative. Unfinished business is life. Nature is never satisfied. It is always in competition with itself. It is seeking to bring to fruition something better than that which has been before. Nature is the naturalness of God. It is mind creating the new and the improved. All evolution is evidence of a progressive mind thinking in new terms to bring forth improvement. This process is in you. In fact, it is what you are. Mm-hmm. Some powerful thinking there in that paragraph, because what it causes us to think about is the people that we celebrate, right? And I don't even mean collectively in sort of the hero worship of celebrity that happens now, but even just, it may be somebody just in your life, in your neighborhood, in your family, someone close to you that you looked at them as though they had it all. But through this lens, you might see, oh, wait, they really were just following the status quo, or they were really just being safe. Mm-hmm. They weren't actually allowing the newness of God mm-hmm. to express in through and as them, mm-hmm. right? And there's so many people that choose the safest route, right? But progress has never really come through that. Right? And we think about all the things that we have and enjoy collectively. It's because someone or someones or somebodies. And this is when we start to, again, I can't help but think about it as I think about our ancestors, right? Like, that's what they did. They did not follow the status quo. First, they had hope and believed that something could be different than what was going on, right? Mm-hmm. Right? To wrap your minds around believing that segregation could end. The morality and the right and wrong of it was one. I mean, there's a whole bunch of right and wrong and a whole bunch of wrong stuff that was happening in this country and around the world, right? But to believe that this thing could change,
mm-hmm. in spite of what you see,
right? And then to go against the grain. It's easy to celebrate the wonderful, beautiful souls that marched and participated, but they were, in totality, a small fraction, in this case, civil rights, of the African American community.
At that time.
They were, percentage-wise, it was only a small fraction of people, right? Folks like to talk about the black church and the civil rights. It was only a segment of the black church. There was a whole other section of the black church that was like, no, sweet by and by, right. Heaven, mm-hmm. God's going to reward us later. We just got to live righteously now. And this is just our cross that we got to bear. But God knows all, and, God will judge them. All of that mess.
And in truth, that's a misuse of hope.
Yeah, it is there again, right? Right. So when you think about it, and again, many of those people, most of them are folks whose names we don't know. I'm not talking about the famous ones. I'm not talking about the ones who get shout out in February. Right? They were the people that Barker is writing about in that section, in that paragraph. Mm-hmm. And so we have the opportunity to live in that same way.
Absolutely. And if that's too remote for you, think about the comfort of believing you are who you have always been. Right? Most people, they hold on to their beliefs about themselves, and they're comfortable. And when we begin to shake it up, it feels uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And so they like, I like it the way it is, even though they want it to be different in some ways. They're not realizing that you've become comfortable in seeing yourself as less.
Yeah.
Receiving less.
Yeah.
Allowing less. Mm-hmm. And so it can feel uncomfortable when you hope for more, mm-hmm. when you begin to think about more. Mm-hmm. But what we're saying here is that uncomfortable place is temporary as you're moving towards the more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And all of those people that remembered that, it's only uncomfortable for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In moving towards what we know is true, our hope is moving us, yes. But our knowingness is taking us.
Absolutely. Oh, well, this is another powerful chapter. We're moving on to chapter 4. So begin this week reading chapter 4 as we're encouraging you. Set a time, schedule your reading time, and read this chapter at least 2 times. We'll probably end up spending 2 weeks on the chapter. We'll see how it flows. So if you want to read it once this week and then read it once next week, you can do that. But let's stay locked in. Let's stay intentional, and let's just allow this to just get into our veins and into the marrow of our bones, because now we've set the scene, right, of understanding ourselves, understanding pure intelligence is what God is, and understanding that we are one with it, understanding what indecision is, and now understanding what decision is. Now we can apply all of that, that foundation, to now applying and making decisions about certain things in our lives.
Absolutely. Exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So we love and appreciate y'all. It is time for giving now, and you've seen the information throughout the stream. It's very easy to give to CSC. You can go to our website, celebrationsc.org/give, or you can text to give. 347-744-9500. Just text your dollar amount to that number. There is a $10 minimum to give. But what's most important is that you give what feels good. There has to be joy attached to it. And when I say joy, I don't mean that you're jumping up and down, excited, adrenaline rush on a roller coaster joy, which is one of my favorite ways to experience joy. I'm not talking about that, right? But there has to be a sense, even as we talked about today, a sense of hope, right? There has to be that positive expectancy and positive expectation attached to your giving.
And trusting that what you give is enough.
Right. That it's enough, that it's not about the dollar amount represents your value or your worth, all of that good. You get rid of that and then attach good to it. That's your joy number. Feels good. There's no guilt. There's no shame.
Easy.
There's no doubt. There's no worry. It feels good. And when you do that, then you can affirm this truth. All the money that I use
returns
to me multiplied. In a never-ending cycle. Of increase. And enjoyment. To that we say amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And so it is.
So it is.
Yes. So everybody, please enjoy the remainder of your Sunday. To all the moms and grandmothers, please enjoy your day. Enjoy this Mother's Day, and in whatever way your family is celebrating you, or in every way you see fit, because it's your day. We look forward to many of you joining us on Wednesday morning for the prayer call, Momentum Prayer Call. And if we don't see you and connect with you on Wednesday, then we will definitely connect right here again on YouTube or Facebook for the weekend service. We look forward to seeing you there. Have an absolutely amazing week. All right? Bye for now.
Bye for now.